Hey guys, it's me, Terry of the Yarnjoy podcast. Well, let's get started on our Dash the Deer crochet along. Okay, so if you haven't watched the introduction video that I did last week, I will link it below. Go ahead and click on that and watch that, and then you can come back to this video. In that introduction, I'm telling you the supplies and things that you're needing, and also kind of explaining how this crochet along will be handled or done. Okay, so this is part one of the Dash the Deer crochet along. Okay, so as I explained in the introduction video, I'm going to be a week ahead of everybody except for those that are have done amigurumis before and have already zoomed ahead and couldn't wait to start, which is fine because I know I get excited about projects and can't wait to start them as well. But anyway, for the majority of you, I have already done week one's assignment, so that way I could take some notes and so I could point out anything I thought maybe would help specifically beginners that are doing this project. So what I did is I used worsted weight yarn. I showed you, I showed you in the introduction video what yarn I used. And so with that weight yarn, I went ahead and used the 3.5 millimeter hook for my project. It also specified in the project you need to go ahead and have a I think it's a 4 millimeter, the G hook, also available because you need to have that hook for a couple of the rounds for this first section, okay? And so that's what I did. Okay, also you need to have some stitch markers. I believe I did specify you had stitch markers, but after doing this first section, I see you need several stitch markers, so I just want to let you know that. Okay, so for the first section, if you read through the top of Jess Huff's pattern, and of course I will link that pattern in the description box below. If you read through the introduction part, which I strongly suggest that you do, it does, let's see, there's a section that is called, I'm looking down at my pattern here, there's a section that is called recommended sequence. It's toward the top as far as what parts to do first, and so I'm pretty much following that. I am combining some of them because there are 16 steps and I didn't want to take 16 weeks to do this crochet along. Okay, so for our first assignment, I combined step 1 and step 2 together, and so during this week, let's do the nose and head and the border on the face, okay? And that's just following the order of the pattern. Okay, so that's what I worked on last week. Now, you have a choice right here at the beginning of the pattern whether you want to do the Rudolph version with the red nose, or if you want to just do regular dash version, which has a dark brown nose. Okay, so you need to decide that because of course the nose is the first thing we're going to make. Okay, so with my project, I did the red nose first, okay, and so of course that determines what yarn you're starting with. And also the red nose is larger than the regular dark brown nose, okay. So for the red nose, there are, let me scroll down to that point, there are 5 rounds, I believe. Yes, there's 5 rounds for the red nose, and for the dark brown nose, you only do 2 rounds, I believe, and then you go on to the next color, which is the light color that you chose to use, which is, the one I used is cream, okay? So, so you start off with the red nose, you do 5 rounds, just like the pattern says. I started with the magic ring, which is what she suggests. If you don't know how to do the magic ring, there are many tutorials here on YouTube that you can find out how to do it, and that you can use that. But if you're not comfortable doing the magic ring, I know it took me quite a while before I finally got the hang of it, and now I can do it without looking almost. But anyway, so if you don't want to do the magic ring, which is fine, you can just chain 2 and then do your first stitches into that the second chain from the hook, okay, and then go on from there. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you my head, since I've already done it. Okay, so here is what mine turned out to look like. Okay, I did do the red nose, and you can see it's pretty good size. I did the red sparkly yarn. You can see that. See the red sparkles? I think it turned out really super cute. You don't have to do that. You can just do regular red if you want to. Anyway, so you start up with the nose, and you do if you're doing the red nose, you do 5 rounds, okay, and then that's when you have to do your first color change. If you're doing the brown one, I believe you would do 2 rounds, and then you go on to the color change. Okay, so that's the difference there. Okay, and so what you do is when you do the color change, you fasten off with the red. And now I will point out in her pattern that when she fastens off, she has a tutorial that shows you how to, I'm looking to see what it's called here. Oh, the invisible finish, that's what she says, because right underneath the sequence there's a group of links that you can click on where you can see some tutorials that she made for these particular specific, that's the word, specific techniques that she's talking about. Okay, so check that out because it's very cool, and I really like the way she did that. The invisible finish, it's called. Okay, and so check that out because that's how I finished off. But if you don't want to, if you want to fasten off the way you normally fasten off, then that should be fine. Okay, so then go on to attaching the cream, and that's where you have to really read in the pattern, because when you're attaching the cream yarn from the red nose, you want to attach with, you want to get your, you start out with the E-hook, okay, your smaller hook, and then when you change to the 4mm hook, which is the larger one, that's when you attach the cream in that first round once you attach that color to the red. Okay, and because what you do is you attach it and then you do back loop only for that first round. Okay, and if you want, but it's back loop only slip stitches. Okay, so doing the large hook that helps to when you go back to the E-hook, that helps you get your hook into those slip stitches. Okay, because you only do the G-hook for that back loop only slip stitch round, okay, in the cream, and then don't forget to change back to your E-hook, because I did that. I kept going with my G-hook and I realized what I did and I had to rip it back. So don't forget to change back to your 3.5mm hook or the small hook, whatever you're using. Okay, and let's see what else. And then I believe in the pattern it says after you do that back loop only slip stitch and you change to, it says to fasten off, I think, and then reattach the yarn again, the same yarn with the E-hook to start your rounds from then on. But I didn't do that. I just went ahead and joined, I joined it, and then I changed hooks, took that hook out, put the other hook in, chained one, and then I went ahead and single crochet. And I believe that next round is also done in the back loops only, but then you do single crochets, okay? And then, but you're doing it with the E-hook, okay? And then that next round, which is the round 3, yeah, you go back to using both loops. You don't do the back loops only anymore, okay? And then you continue on with pattern, okay? So I did want to point that out. So the next thing is use one of your markers to mark the first of your rounds, okay? That helps. That way you don't have to count stitches each time. You can do that just to check to make sure, because I believe she does. Yes, she gives you a stitch count at the end of the rounds, okay? But using that marker helps. And now the way she marks her rounds, she marks it where I believe she puts the marker in the last the last stitch of the round, and then when you get back to that marker, you know that that's the last stitch that you have to do a stitch into before you start your next one. Now, the way I always mark rounds, I mark the very first stitch of the round, but it really doesn't matter, just however is more comfortable for you to do that, okay? Just make sure you remember, is this the first stitch or is this the last stitch of the previous round or the first stitch of the next round? Okay, so anyway, you're gonna need a marker for that. Okay, and then when you're going around, she's going to tell you where to put the marker, 2 markers, okay, to mark the spaces where the eyes are going to go. Okay, so that's it worked out really well. And I'm a lefty, left-handed, and sometimes when she has me put not her, but when I'm doing patterns and they have me put markers to mark like where the eyes or the ears are going to go or something. Sometimes me being left-handed, I go around the opposite way. Sometimes my markers don't line up with where they're supposed to, but this time this pattern worked out just fine. So I'm sure that even with, you know, it'll be good right-handers or left-handers, so that's good. Okay, anyway, you do markers that marks where each eye will go, okay, and then so you'll have 2 markers there besides the one that you're using to go around each round. Okay, and then when you get to getting ready to change your color from the cream to the brown, okay, then you have to do that same thing. In fact, that is, I believe, on round, right after you do round 13, yes. You are going to, when you finish round 13, you're going to change your beginning point of your rounds. And it says to do that. It says just to single crochet 4 more stitches. That kind of makes where your seam will be under the bottom of the head. And then if you do that, and then you single crochet 4 more stitches, you know, 1 in each stitch, and then mark that one as your first round. Or, I mean, after the 4th, so the 5th one would be the next stitch. That would be the beginning of your first round, okay? So when you do that, then your markers where you're marking your ears and your antlers should line up good, okay? So anyway, when you do that, so when you finish round 13, when you go to round 14, then you're going to do that same thing that you did between the nose and the cream when you had to change to your large hook, do back loops only, well, you fasten off and start your dark brown color, I believe. Yes, and you switch to your darker color, your body color, okay? And then you change to that larger hook, and then you do a slip stitch round to change colors, I believe. Yes, back loop only, slip stitch, and you use that larger hook. And then when you get back around and you start the next round, which is round 15, go back to your E hook, okay? And then because you're going to be working into those slip stitches, and you're going to do a back loop only round of that round also. And then when you start in round 16, continuing with your E hook, you'll be going into both loops, okay? And the reason you do a back loop only round is because that's where you attach, you can see that, that braided piece, okay? It makes a little ridge there, okay? Okay. So, but that is, of course, after you finish the head. Okay, so then you keep going, and then round 21, I believe, is about where you're going to start your markers. And for these markers, you need to do 2 of one color and 2 of another color, so that way you'll know that, you know, the middle 2, here mine are pink, that is where the antlers are going to be attached. And then this one and the 2 outer ones, in other words, they need to be the same color, so that way you know that's where the ears will be attached. Okay, now if your markers don't line up or doesn't look about where you think that the ears will go lining up with the eyes, now in the pattern it will tell you where to insert your safety eyes, and then you'll just work on the inside there and remove your markers that you had for your eyes and put your safety eyes in. Okay, but what I was going to say about the markers, if they don't line up with where you think the eyes are going to go, that's no problem. Like I said, I've had problems with that before, just because I think I was a lefty on some other pattern, and then these places that were marked didn't line up to where the ears were really going to be. So that's no problem. You know, that at least tells you what round you need to put them on. And then you can always later on just look at the front of your face, the face of your critter, and then you can just kind of see that and looking at the picture, you can just kind of see where you're going to attach the antlers and the ears, okay, to be even kind of in relationship to where the eyes are. Okay, so don't worry too much about if your markers don't turn out in the right place. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, and then let's see, and then everything else is basically the same. You kind of stuffing as you're going. She does have a link up there at the top about how to, with a tutorial about how to make the indentions for where the eyes are going to go, which is really not that big of a deal, not hard to do. Okay, and she even has a tutorial that tells you how to make a really nice finish. Okay, on the edge here. Okay, and then one thing now I do want to tell you before I closed off my head, okay, and before I stuffed it totally, you know, up to the top, I did the tip that I've mentioned before in other videos where I took out some of this yarn from the other end of the skein or whatever, you know, and I used that to stuff the very top section about so much, so that way when I'm doing my decreases and things to close this up, that you can't see the stuffing through there. And I think that technique turns out just really well where you won't see white stuffing. Okay, so that's what I did, is I just stuffed the very top part on the inside with the same colored yarn instead of using the fiber fill all the way to the top. Okay, so that is my tips, I think, for the head. And so feel free to get started on the nose, the cream part, you know, the nose, the head. Oh, and then the braid section, which is the very next set of instructions right past the head. I don't think it's called braid. Let's see. It is called the border on the face, which you use the same color, this color, the darker color. Okay, and all you do is you do a single crochet round. Is it single? Let me look right quick. No, I'm sorry, it's a slip stitch. You attach to those front loops that were free from that back loop round. It's right where the cream meets the dark brown, and you do a slip stitch into those front loop only that were remaining. Okay, and then all the way around, and then you just, you know, finish it off, fasten it off, and then hide your tails inside the head. So anyway, so get working on that, the nose, the head, and the little trim around the face. Okay, and then I will be back on Monday because I'm going to be starting the next part. So that way, if I see anything I feel like I need to let you know about, I may take some in progress photos, which I didn't do that, or clips for the next part if I think it might be necessary. But anyway, so that Monday I will be ready to assign you the next part. Okay. Okay, so thanks guys, and I'm so excited for everybody that's wanting to participate. It's going to be so fun seeing everybody's pictures over on the Facebook group. And like I said, if you're not part of the Facebook group, feel free to email me progress pictures. My email is down below in the description box. I'd love to hear from you. And I think that's it. So we will meet up next Monday, and I will for part 2, and we will see how our little Dash the Deer is growing, and watch our progress, everybody's progress on them. Okay, so I'll talk to you later, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you in 2 days on Wednesday for a Whipwall Wednesday episode for this week. So, and then the next day for my next Yarnjoy podcast episode. So you get 3 videos this week. Okay, talk to you later, guys. Bye.